Imagine the most expensive wedding venue in the state on the most perfect Saturday in June. White roses everywhere. String quartet playing Vivaldi, 300 guests in designer clothes. And right by the valet stand, in a cheap black polo and khakis, there I am. My own brother walks past me, shoves his keys into my chest, and says loud enough for the entire receiving line to hear, "Try not to scratch it this time, little bro. Parking cars is the only thing you've ever been good at." Everyone laughs. My parents shake their heads like I'm the family embarrassment. 40 minutes later, those same guests watch armed security drag my brother, still in his tuxedo, out of his own reception while the bride screams my name. This is the story of how the brother they treated like a servant turned out to own the castle they were getting married in. Stay until the end. The part where my father tries to pay the bill is pure gold. Let's go back 8 years, so you understand why I let them humiliate me that long. I was never the son my parents bragged about. That was always Ethan. Captain of everything, Harvard Business School, engaged to an influencer with 600,000 followers. I was the quiet one who dropped out of college sophomore year to flip houses nobody wanted. My parents called it manual labor. They told everyone I was finding myself because they were ashamed to admit their son worked with his hands. What they never knew was that the first house I bought for $22,000 at a tax auction is now worth $4.8 million. I kept buying foreclosures, abandoned estates, properties so ugly banks wouldn't touch them. I turned them into cash. 5 years ago, I found the crown jewel, a crumbling 1920s mansion on 50 acres an hour outside the city. The bank was desperate. I paid cash. I spent 2 years and $12 million restoring it to better than original condition. I turned it into the most exclusive wedding and event venue in the country. The Ashford Estate. Booked solid for the next 4 years. Celebrities, politicians, royalty, and I never put my name on the website. The public face is a management company. To my family, I'm still the dropout who does something with real estate and can barely afford rent. Ethan announced his engagement last year and chose the Ashford Estate for the wedding. He bragged to everyone it was the only place good enough for him. My parents offered to pay for everything to show off. I let them. I even gave them the family discount through the sales team. 30% off. They never knew the discount was actually 100% because I own the place. The contract was signed under the LLC. My name appears exactly nowhere. I told the venue manager, Lauren, to treat me like any other staff member the day of the wedding. I wanted to see how far they would go when they thought I was powerless. The morning of the wedding, I showed up in the staff polo. Ethan saw me and lost it. He screamed that I was embarrassing him in front of his future in-laws. He told me the only way I was allowed on the property was if I worked. He literally handed me the valet keys and said, "Park cars. Stay out of sight. And for God's sake, don't talk to any guests." My mother pulled me aside and whispered that if I ruined one photo, she would never speak to me again. My father slipped me a $50 bill for gas and told me to try to act normal for once. I took the keys, I smiled, and I parked every single car that day. Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, vintage Ferraris. Guests asked me to pose for photos with their cars. I did. Every time Ethan walked past, he made a comment. "Faster, valet. Don't block the entrance with your existence." The photographer even caught him on video flicking a tip at me like I was a stripper. That clip went viral later, but not for the reason he thought. The ceremony came and went. Ethan married Chloe in front of 400 people who still believed I was the hired help. Then the reception started. Open bar. 10-course dinner. Fireworks display that cost more than most people's houses. At 8:30, the venue manager, Lauren, found me by the valet stand. She was nervous. She whispered, "They're ready for the big entrance. Are you sure you want to wait until now?" I told her it was time. I walked through the staff entrance, past the kitchen, and straight into the grand ballroom. 300 guests were seated. Ethan and Chloe were about to have their first dance. The lights dimmed. The string quartet stopped. I stepped onto the small stage where the band had been playing. I took the microphone. The room went silent. Ethan saw me and turned red. He marched toward the stage, shouting, "What the hell are you doing? Get off." I spoke into the mic, calm and clear. "Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Logan Ashford, and I own this venue. You could have heard a champagne bubble pop." I continued. "Today has been educational. I've parked your cars. I've been tipped like a servant. I've been told I'm an embarrassment by my own family. So before the first dance, I thought I'd clear a few things up." I nodded to Lauren. The lights came up. The massive screen behind me lit up with the property deed, the LLC paperwork, and finally a photo of me holding the original purchase contract from 5 years ago. My name in bold. Logan Ashford, sole owner of the Ashford estate. The room erupted in gasps. Ethan froze halfway to the stage. Chloe's jaw actually dropped. My mother fainted into her chair. My father looked like he was having a stroke. I kept going. "Ethan, you booked your wedding at the venue I own. Mom, Dad, you paid for a wedding at the house I bought with the money you said I'd never make. And all day you treated me like the help. So here's what's going to happen now." I turned to the security team. 6 men in black suits who had been waiting in the wings. "Please escort my brother, his new wife, and my parents off the property immediately. Their reservation ended 5 minutes ago." Ethan started screaming, "You can't do this. This is my wedding." I looked at him and smiled. "Actually, this is my house, and you're trespassing." Security moved in. 2 guards grabbed Ethan by the arms. He was still in his tuxedo, bow tie crooked, face purple. Chloe was shrieking, veil flying, trying to hit the guards with her bouquet. My mother was crying hysterically, mascara running down her face like war paint. My father tried the reasonable approach. "Son, we're family. Let's talk about this." I looked at him. "Family doesn't make family park cars at their own property. You have 10 minutes to leave before I call the police for trespassing." The best part, the guests started clapping, slowly at first, then louder. Some even stood. They watched my family get marched out past the ice sculptures and the $10,000 cake. Ethan was barefoot. Security had taken his shoes so he couldn't run. Chloe lost a $6,000 heel in the gravel. My mother kept screaming my name like I was murdering them. I just stood on stage and waved goodbye. 6 months later, the Ashford estate is more popular than ever. We've raised prices 20% and we're still booked solid. Ethan and Chloe's wedding photos never made it to the magazine. Instead, the video of the groom being carried out by security went viral. 42 million views and counting. They're getting divorced already. My parents lost most of their friends. Nobody wants to be associated with that level of entitlement. Last month, Ethan showed up at my office begging for a job. Any job, even valet. I told him we don't hire people who throw keys at the staff. He cried in the lobby. Security escorted him out again. Some habits die hard. These days I still park my own car at the staff entrance. Old habit. But now I do it in a car that costs more than their house. And every time I walk through the gates of the estate, I bought with the money they swore I'd never earn. I remember one thing. Real wealth isn't loud. It doesn't need to brag. It just waits quietly in the shadows until the perfect day to take the microphone and remind everyone who really holds the keys. If you've ever been treated like the help by your own family, type keys in the comments right now. Smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. New story every single day. See you tomorrow for another round of Karma's Last Laugh. Then they took Linda. As they marched her out the front door, she tried to dig her heels into the expensive rug. She shouted that she owned this house. She shouted that I was ungrateful. Mr. Blackwood followed them to the door. He handed the officers a file. He told them to add trespassing to the embezzlement charges. The door slammed shut. The party was over. The guests filed out in silence, keeping their heads down, terrified that I might turn my forensic gaze on them next. An hour later, the house was quiet. The catering staff had packed up, leaving me a plate of leftovers and a bottle of vintage wine. I sat in my father's favorite armchair by the fire. The Christmas tree lights were still twinkling. Mr. Blackwood sat opposite me. He handed me a glass of wine. He asked if I wanted to sell the house. I looked around. I saw the memories of my father before Linda. I saw the potential. I told him no. I told him I was going to restore it. I told him I was going to turn it into exactly what my father wanted, a place for people who had lost everything to fraud. I took a sip of the wine. Epilogue. 3 months later, I was in the garden supervising the landscaping crew. The snow had melted and the first crocuses were pushing through the soil. A beat-up sedan pulled up to the gate. It was Linda. She looked 10 years older. Her hair was unkempt, her clothes cheap. She was out on bail, awaiting trial. She walked up to the gate. She didn't yell. She looked defeated. She asked if I had seen a box of photos. She said she left her personal albums in the attic. She asked if she could just come in for 5 minutes to get them. I looked at her. I thought about the waste management brochure. I picked up the intercom phone. I told her that all personal items left on the premises after the eviction date were considered abandoned property. I told her that per her suggestion, I had hired a very efficient waste removal service. I told her the albums were gone. She started to cry. Real tears this time. She asked why I had to be so cruel. I looked her in the eye through the bars of the gate. I told her that I finally amounted to something. I amounted to the consequences of her actions. I hung up the phone and turned my back. I walked back toward the house, leaving her standing alone on the other side of the gate, exactly where she belonged.